Hey everyone, New12 here. Last time I finished up the whatever number chapter this was, 6th? Yeah, I think it was the 6th chapter. And the final was a pretty long episode, so I didn't have time to actually go over all the interesting little tidbits that I learned and what I think is going on. So this is going to be a short little video about that. Though I say short now, it's probably going to end up being like 20 minutes long. Anyways, so just fucking from the start, Rika obviously has some sort of ability, or some would say a curse, that she's stuck in this perpetual loop type deal. At least that's how I view it. That it seems, I don't know how long the loop is. I don't know if it's her entire life or is it just a year or so. I'm going to assume longer because going back to her talking with Akasaka, it seemed like she already knew about it. And actually, going back even into those tips, it talked about how she didn't like it being really predictable, so I can only assume by that point she's already relived the point a bunch of times and she's hoping for some kind of difference, I would assume. So it seems like her whole life is in a perpetual time loop, i.e. hundreds of years, which, oh god, that would fucking suck, honestly. So that's definitely something interesting to look at. I guess that's going to be the main focus. At least that's what I would hope to be for the next chapter. And I would be really fucking bored. Honestly, I would get so fucking tired. I mean, because you have to get to the point of suicidal if you're reliving every single moment over and over and over again, and you can't really do anything about it. So that's all fun. So all these chapters connected must be in different types. I mean, like a type of parallel universe type deal. That just minor changes affects the outcome type dealio. I'd imagine. At least that's how they're interconnected. Because there's a lot of like references that Rika does to this time or the next Rika or next runner or whatever. Or this is different. So I can only imagine that it's played out before, and there's slight variation to it. So in that sense, I think it's safe to assume that there's going to be parallel worlds going on here. But it's still reminiscent that she is definitely reliving her life, though. That's a guaranteed. Lock solved right there. And I would assume parallel worlds as well. And that's how I would connect all the chapters together. That they're all just variations of different timelines. I can only assume the regular one would be the first chapter. I could only assume that's going to be the majority of the time. If you don't do anything to the story, that's what naturally happens. And then various other things influence it to get to the second, third, not fourth because that's previous, fifth, sixth, etc. So that's how I'm going to view it. That they're more just branches off in what could have happened instead of that, in a sense. Why this is all happening, I have no fucking clue. That's still, I probably will never understand why until they actually tell me. Because there's no way I'd understand why she's reliving her life over and over again. I mean, there has to be supernatural elements involved, clearly, because you can't usually relive your life hundreds of times over, generally speaking. And seemingly until the end of fucking time. Which for her, it just keeps restarting, so never. Ooh, terrible. That would be the worst, actually. But if I really had to guess why, there has to be like certain like criteria that have to be met for her to be able to get out of her time loop or whatever. That's the only thing I can think of, that there's something going wrong in the middle of there that she can't get past. Well, probably her dying. I mean, that probably just resets it, so whenever she dies, it just restarts. So as long as she never dies, that she doesn't have to restart it, that'd be terrible. Lives to 80, dies, has to restart her entire life. Fuck. Ooh, that would be terrible. The worst. Main suspect, I still have to go with my main guess of Ire, because I still go back to the syringes, and there's no other way that she can get them except for going to a medical clinic. It's just, there's no other reason for that. At least that's what I would assume. Because, I mean, why? How does she have them? There's no other reason for her to have them unless there's a secret underground clinic somewhere. Or some medical facility that she can go to just to buy some syringes and some weird-ass fluid inside of it. I have no idea what's inside of it. Only thing we've been hinted at is that it makes you claw out your fucking throat. So, that's always a joy. But the only other people that could be involved would be the Kimiyoshi family or some other group that I'm not aware about, because it's a decently, it has to be a sized group if they're able to fucking do whatever they feel like in that sense, because someone has to be killing all the people behind the scenes. I really doubt it's going to come down to like, oh, it's all coincidence. I just don't see it like that. I feel like there's going to be a group behind all 5 years of what's happening. And it has to be a group that I'm not known about, or it's the Kimiyoshi family, or Ire's involved somehow at the clinic. Well, no, I think he's involved either way. Whether it be with the Kimiyoshi family or an outside group. I hope it's not an unknown party, because then I'll be like, well, that fucking sucks. There's no possibility for me to get that right, or even like assuming that I could even like come close to knowing who that is. But I put most of my weight in Ire, some in Kimiyoshi family, a little less in the unknown group. There are probably religious motivations behind it due to the way Riko was sacrificed in the 3rd chapter. And how she later described in the 4th one as well that she'd be killed, cut open, all that bullshit. I mean, so it's because it was eerily reminiscent of having her intestines dragged out, disemboweled, as the old rituals as well. So there's clearly a religious motivation, it seems, behind it. Why there's a religious motivation behind at least her death in particular, I would have to go with the idea with her bloodline and all that, because she's supposed to be the reincarnation of Oya Shiro-sama. So maybe they don't want her around to set the precedent, so they want to get rid of her. Though that wouldn't make sense, because why wouldn't they just kill her when she was younger? Why wait to this point? I don't know. Maybe this is just the perfect year to do it. But I do believe there are religious motivations behind it, because there's no reason she'd be disemboweled like that. Well, everyone else was just like, oh, you're just going to be killed. For no other reason. I don't know why, though. I don't know why someone would do it other than... Like, the only reason I can think of is they don't want her around to set a precedent of... Because if she is the reincarnation, her word is law in a sense on religious-based text, since she's the reincarnation of him. Which would mean that someone else wants it to be either more vague, more strict, or just doesn't want to lose control of it. Obviously, no one's in the Furude family. Sonozaki family's not involved if we're to believe what Oryu said is true. I'm going to trust Mion's word on it, so that eliminates the Sonozaki family for me. So I'd only imagine that that's the only reason I suspect that it would be the Kimiyoshi family. Because they already don't have a lot of power, this would be a way to eliminate the Furude family, but also be able to plant in their own ideal or their own ideology of the religion and how people worship. That's what I would think would be the main group that would do it for a religious purpose. Or unless there's a couple like the unknown party that I'm talking about, so a cult of fanaticals that coincidentally Takano brought up, but I wouldn't mind lending a couple pieces from her that they don't want, because I have a different reason of why fanaticals would be, because I don't believe in all the bioterrorism bullshit, parasite, whatever. No, that's all bullshit, whatever. Fuck that shit. Get out of here. No, but I do believe there might be an underground cult type deal that want maybe stricter religions, a more strict festival, maybe to go back to the old times where you used to fucking cut open people. They cut open Rika. So that might be something that comes up later. Because I think that's something important, because that was highlighted, that she got disemboweled. Hell, actually, even in this chapter, they talked about it in the very end, like she was killed at the shrine. So, I mean, it seems like she always dies there, if not ripping her own throat out. Or cutting herself open with a knife first. It seems that way. And then, of course, tying in with the religious theme, the second being, or whatever the fuck she talks to, it has to be either a supernatural entity that is actually in existence, or it's just like a mental construct inside her brain after the repeated mental torture of going over and over and over again in her life. And then she's created this other person, this other personality that she can talk to and receive feedback from. I'm more inclined to believe that a supernatural being, due to the fact that it does give actual responses back that are different. But of course, that could just be all in an effort to throw the reader off, into believing that it is not just her making up the voice inside of her head. Because that already shows in chapter 1, they're plenty fine of giving me a delusional perspective without actually telling me that it's a delusional perspective. So I can't throw out that little caveat that it could just be her creating a persona just to make herself less lonely, someone that she can actually decry her problems with. Because obviously you can't go around telling people, I've been alive for hundreds of years, I keep reliving my life. Prove it. Kills herself. Whoop-de-doo. Nothing happens. So there's really no way you can prove it unless you bring up like a bunch of bullshit things that they would have no idea of knowing. Like Groundhog Day. In that sense. But I would say it's about a 60-40 split of being a supernatural being. It could really go either way, honestly, in my mind. But I want to say it's a different being that's inside of her. Not that it does anything, really, it seems. It seems like it's completely useless except for giving advice. So, it could be just a mental construct just to help her cope. So, I really wouldn't be surprised about that. Because I would feel that would be extremely normal for someone to develop. in a sense that, hey, I've been dying and reliving or rebirthing myself in a really terrible cycle. I could definitely see her creating some kind of being to help her cope with that. Definitely. Other than that, I'll go over characters, how I feel about each one. Keiichi, I'll start with the main protagonist for the main part. He redeemed himself in some qualities over the last few chapters. At first, I viewed him as an idiot. He still is. Dent, he still is. But, given all that, he can be an outstanding person. He can be kind-hearted. Even when sometimes I disagree with why he's being kind-hearted, he can be. He can be more forgiving than others, definitely. Some would say too forgiving, in a sense. Or too optimistic in some other senses. I would say he's very prone to his emotions taking control over logic. Thus why it's easy for him to go paranoid and go into a crazy state in the first chapter. Because he was more feeding off emotions instead of actually sound logic and thinking it through. Do you think these high school aged girls really are part of this death cult type deal? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, just thinking about it logically for a couple minutes, you'd come to a conclusion, no, this is stupid. Rena, I will say I've felt some sort of sympathy towards her in this chapter. It may not have come across that just because I still hold her accountable even in her mental delusional state, because I still hold Keiichi to that same standard, because I feel that you should be able to realize, hey, this is really fucking stupid. Or before going crazy, hey, I'm not gonna do this. And also, Rena still killed 2 people. Whether it was just or not can be argued. And she still killed 2 people in full awareness. She wasn't crazy at that point. She completely knew what she was doing. The first one, self-defense, I can yield that. The second one, not as much, of course. So, that one I'm still gonna criticize her because it's my fucking opinion. I can do whatever the fuck I want. But, just to let her off scot-free because, oh, she's crazy or whatever. No, because I wouldn't be true to myself. Because I held Keiichi to that same standard in the first chapter at that point. Especially knowing that he was in a delusional state, I hold him to an even greater standard that he should have been, hey, I need to snap the fuck out of this. Get over myself. Mio, nothing's changed. Yeah, fucking perfect. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I could go on for hours about that, but honestly, she just further cemented that she's a great friend. Honestly, any flaws that I see in her, I find as endearing flaws. She's overly trusting in her friends. She goes way above the Call of Duty for her friends, etc., etc. And honestly, like I said, any flaws in her, it's more of an endearing trait for her that I don't feel, they're more double-edged swords than anything else. I don't think they're anything majorly bad with her. Unlike the other people where Keiichi is extremely stupid and dense, while Rena, she can be pretty cruel at other times, which I forgot to mention that in her delusional state, she's extremely cruel to her other people. Which Keiichi, yeah, he beat the shit out of Rena and Mio, which terrible. But it wasn't fill a classroom full of gasoline to ignite it. Kind of fucked up. I think that just edges it up a little bit more. But also, even when Rena's normal, I feel she bottles up her emotions too much, and she's obviously clearly bipolar, it seems, especially when it comes to the topic of Oyashiro-sama. And It's definitely just something that you have to really watch out around her. That you can't just casually talk about stuff. Satsuko, she's shown some growth in the answer arcs, especially in the last one, where she talked about how she wouldn't cry. And I'll have to say that's extremely brave of her. I wouldn't have been crying, I would have been yelling and cursing at Shion. Which, we'll get to her. And, so I have to give her credit there. She's not as complainy as she usually is in the first few arcs. Which that really put me off because she just bitched a fuck ton. So I will say that she improved definitely over the answer arcs. I would say overall of the answer arcs, my impression of the characters have increased as a whole. For the most part. Because I feel like it's more of a deepening of the characters, that you actually see some growth in everyone. So, but for the most part, Satsuko is still the same, of course. But she does recognize the burden she's caused. She exhibits strength, courage. Rika, there's a fuck ton of stuff that I learned about her, apparently. She's lived hundreds of years. And, she definitely seems like the type that she just wants to fucking live past however old she is right now, or just get out of this time loop so she can die a natural death and not be reborn and go through everything over and over and over again. But she seems to really care about her friends. At least it seems that way. I mean, she was protecting Keiichi. So it seems like she wants everyone to be happy at the end and live, for the most part. So I give her props for that. Especially after all the mental torture she's gone through. I'm surprised she's just not brain dead at this point. Just completely given up, like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. There's no point in even trying. So, I mean, I could definitely see why you'd give in to despair at that point. Ah, Shion. How much I learned about that sadistic little fucker. Oh, she's just fucking terrible. Nice and pleasant on the outside. Cruel ice queen on the center. Terrible. Which actually, coincidentally, is the exact opposite of Mion, except on the outside she's not a cruel ice queen. On the outside she's just overly competitive, which... Hey, look at me. I'm extremely competitive. God, no. Anyone who gets in a competition with me, just fucking lose already. I'm not going to give up until I win at least once. I could go 100 games and lose 99 in a row. Win the last one and say, I fucking won. Suck it. Because that's all I care about. Just winning. But, anyways. I will say that I like her logical side and the fact of Shion. She could do with a little more emotions. I really feel like she doesn't have any real ones because she always talks about, oh, I should feel this way. Why don't I feel this way? Or just, it's weird. It seems like she's never experienced real emotions. That could be because of having her birthright taken away from her on an accident. That could definitely have jaded her personality, stunted her growth, and such like that. So, I mean, I have to give her some credit that she could be worse, actually. She could have turned out worse. A complete sociopath that just kills every single person that comes in contact with her. But she doesn't. Because she loved Satoshi. For some reason. And Satoshi's still a minor character to her. Takano, she's a fucking troll. Other than that, nothing. Tometaka, he's fucking whipped. That's all it is. There's no other reason why he's even talking to Takano. I mean, that's the only vibe I get from him. He is just whipped beyond belief, and that's fine. I mean, you're gonna die because of it, because it seems like whoever's in association with Takano ends up going crazy or dying. So, that's beautiful. You really know how to pick him, Tometake. Oishi, he's still a fucking jerk-off. And I hate him. I really do. I honestly hate him. He will forever be just a character I hate and despise. Because he's such an asshole. So overly arrogant. And I imagine he's supposed to be. It doesn't... No matter how much character building you could do for him. Oh, I still hate his ass. That whole 4th chapter, hated it. God, I hated him. Terrible. I never want to be partners with him. I hope the next 2 chapters don't even bring him up. He's that much of an asshole. But for the most part, I think that covers most of the main characters. Anyone else I forgot? Actually, I don't think I did forget anyone, really. Anyone I did forget, nothing really changed about them in that sense. Or that they're just that not important that I don't feel necessary to talk about. But, to recap, Mion's still perfect. Keiichi went up, and then went down, and then went up again. His main positive, he fucking slapped the shit out of Rena and told her to get the hell over herself. Thank you. I really needed that. Rena, I understand what she's going through. Blah, blah, blah. Tragic backstory, blah, blah, blah. She still needs to open up more about herself. She needs to calm down on her overly fanatical beliefs of Oyashiro-sama for me to continue to actually see her in a different life. I can't get over the fact that she goes crazy whenever you mention that. Because even when she wasn't crazy and Keiichi brought it up, she started getting all tense and like really nervous about it. And Rena even fucking went off about it on Shion as well. So just in general, that's just a very topic you don't want to bring up with Rena. And she doesn't even have to be crazy at that point. So mainly with my characters, I don't like just a topic that completely sets them off and makes them go crazy. Satoko, she's shown extreme strength in the Answers arc so far. Rika, I don't understand how she's not a mental puddle at this point. Shion, I like her logical thinking skills. I don't like her personality because that is terrifying. Just terrifying. And I'm glad I called the 2nd chapter because I knew Mion would never do those kinds of shit. I was right, but for the wrong reasons I was right. Because I figured she just mentally broke her sister down. Boy, was I wrong about that. She did mentally break her, probably. But I wasn't completely wrong. Other than that, yeah. Close enough. We should fuck him. I hope he dies in a fire. Anyways, I hope that clears it up. Rika has some sort of ability that allows her to rebirth herself for some unknown reason. I don't know why she wants to. I have a feeling she's not in control of it. She just does. Because I'm sure she'd be like, can I just die now? It's been 100 or 200 years. Can I just die now? They're connected, and I'm going to assume parallel universe type deal, where the Onikakushi main one is just the standard world that if whatever standard things happen, that's what's going to happen. And each one's just a various branch off point of different stories. And from the regular answer or question arcs, there is a main branch of an answer arc. So with Watanagashi, you'd have their answer arc as a different branching of what's generally going to be the main 2 outcomes in that sense. Even though it was only really one answer. So, nothing really changed in that sense. But say this one, because Rika talked about how, oh, this is different. Oh, this never happened before. So it can seem like this one either ends, Rena blows up everyone, or what just happened. Those seem the 2 major endings. So, I have to go with Irei as my main idea. The Kimiyoshi family, or an unknown religious cult that is trying to gain control because of religious motivations due to the sacrifices of Rika, because I can only assume it's because she's the supposed to symbolize the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Whoever she's talked to has to be a supernatural being, or she has fucking lost it and created a voice in her head that can respond in a different way than she would normally want it to, just so she can have an outlet that she can vent to. So I think that about covers it, and I am ready to get into the next chapter. I haven't actually checked what the name is, so I don't know what the next chapter's name is, but it's Chapter 7, Answer Arc, and I'm really excited to see what answers are going to be revealed next. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little insight into my mind. I actually took note for it, because why not? Because there's actually a fuck ton of stuff that actually went down. There'd be no way I'd be able to remember some of this stuff. I wouldn't have remembered the religious motivation shit. I would have forgotten about the sacrifices in general. Anyways, I'm rambling. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out the next video, because that will be episode 1 of Chapter 7 of Higurashi When They Cry.